There's been this trend the last few years I've noticed where when a Sonic thing gets announced, just a few months later a Mario thing of the same caliber will also be announced and take away any, if not all, excitement people had for the Sonic thing. I first noticed this in 2023 when Sonic Superstars was announced during the Summer Games Fest and people were like, wow, this game looks pretty good, and then literally less than 2 weeks later Mario Wonder was announced in a Nintendo Direct and people were like, wow, this looks way better, and lo and behold it f***ing was. I don't even think this is on purpose. There's no way Sega would doom their game before it even releases by releasing it at the same time as a Mario game in the same genre, so I just think this is a case of bad luck, but also it's Sega, so you never know. They're known for their laughably bad decision making. But this happened again in December. I assume to tie in with the Sonic Movie 3 hype, they announced a new Sonic racing game by the name of Sonic Racing Crossworlds with a short cinematic trailer for the game with Shadow. Again, Sonic Movie 3 hype and all. And things were good and well for a while, but that was until the Nintendo Switch 2 was revealed, and at the very end of the trailer, we got a little quick glimpse of the next Mario Kart game by the name of we don't know yet. But at this point, each of these games were on pretty equal footing, with Mario Kart getting a title, and neither of them really had any gameplay shown off, and both being shadowed in mystery. But over time, we get to see footage of each game. They even had a few times where they let the public test out the games. Mostly with Sonic Racing Crossworlds and the whole playtest thing, and God knows I'm not flying down to New York to play Mario Kart, and God knows that's a lie, I just didn't have the money for it. Fortnite skins and all. Many people, and I would be lying if I didn't say myself to an extent, had no faith that Sonic Racing Crossworlds could hold a candle to Mario Kart despite the controversy surrounding Mario Kart, which, might I add, was very well deserved and Nintendo f***ing sucks. I don't assume there's any doubt that this game would at least be quality, but after I got a hold of the playtest for Sonic Racing Crossworlds and got to put my hands all over the game after playing Mario Kart a lot and having some pretty mixed feelings towards it, I realized, wait, I kinda like this game a lot more than I thought. And a ton of people had the same feeling too. There's this whole apology form thing going around, and let me just say that if you participated in this whole apology form, then you need a lobotomy. This picture I saw on Reels really shows my beliefs in the whole thing exactly. Also, can I just say how stupid it was that there was no Switch 2 version of Sonic Racing Crossworlds? It's not like this game wouldn't be playable on the Switch 2 because of backwards compatibility. It's just annoying. Thanks, Sega. This has to be the worst thing you've done in the last 10 years. But there's only one way to end this whole which is better, Sonic Racing Crossworlds or Mario Kart World debate, and that's for me, the skinny white boy from Alaska, to compare both of these games while putting substances in my body and coming to a conclusion on which game is better. Or just buy Garfield Kart like a true wise man. We'll be ranking each game based on the categories gameplay mechanics, track design, character and vehicle system, game modes, and lastly, which game gives you the most value, aka bang for your buck. Pause for details. Okay, getting started, both of these games are simple racing games made for kids, so of course you're not going to get some crazy things like you'd see in a simulation racer like Gran Turismo. Don't get me started on that movie. But that's not to say that these games don't have things to learn that make you better at the game. I mean, what kind of game would that be? That would kind of defeat the whole purpose, don't you think? Starting with Mario Kart, because I spent $80 on this game, I need to put some use to it. A worry I had with this game when I first saw the main racing gameplay was that it wouldn't be as distinguished from a previous Mario Kart game, especially with how smooth 8 was, and I'm happy to say that while this game does set itself apart pretty well from Mario Kart 8, I would be lying if I said we weren't grasping at some straws here. Here you have pretty much all the moves you have in Mario Kart, like drifting, throwing items, and whatever, but there are some glaring omissions, like the lack of underwater driving, which I would be lying if I lost any sleep over this. I kinda like driving on top of the water and doing tricks off the waves a lot more anyway, so I don't really care. But to make up for this, we actually got some of the most in-depth new additions of the Mario Kart gameplay that we've seen since bikes were added in Mario Kart Wii. That being rail grinding, jumping, and the extended trick system, which is really nice. I remember first seeing that you could jump in this game and thought, okay, this is just drifting without turning, and that's only kind of true. This can be used as a drift while driving forward, which already works pretty well here with all the different routes you can go through and how they're just straight lines most of the time. But this jump also allows you to cling onto a wall and get away from other players by clinging onto the wall. This is a really good move because one of the main additions to this game was the doubled amount of racers, which can already make the game pretty chaotic, so it's nice to be able to go up on a wall and get away from all that. I think one of the best things about this new feature is it doesn't really change that much, and it doesn't alienate people who are used to the more general control of Mario Kart 8, and I see this as a mainstay for the series, at least for the significant future. But holy hell, this game can become a seizure warning with all these people jumping and riding on walls. This game also goes away with the classic 3-lap structure seen in almost every game before this, and now has multiple routes to each track, which can make almost every new playthrough of a track feel different because there are almost 200 unique routes that are mixed and matched from what track you're on. This is so that tracks can seamlessly merge into each other in the open world, which I've neglected to mention yet, because I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It was definitely cool to roam around this place for a while, and it's a really fun way of giving you something to do while waiting in an online match, which due to some frankly stupid decisions made behind the scenes, it may take a while now. And sure, there are some fun missions and cool secrets to discover around the open world here. Still, for being the main new feature in this game, I mean, it's in the name, I have shockingly little to say about this. It's basically just a racing-themed world you can explore. Yeah, that's what the routes are for here, but for what could have been a cute little feature adding the cups to make the game less repetitive, Nintendo decided to do the worst thing they could have possibly done for the online matches in this game. Most of these routes are pretty much just straight lines with very little turns, so there's not a ton of gameplay here, so when you're packed here with 23 other racers, it gets a little, you know. And these routes would occasionally show up online mixed in with the normal 3-lap races, and that was until Nintendo decided to update the game, and now these things are crammed down your throat. You can't escape them. Yeah, now pretty much only route courses show up in the online, so you're only racing on like one actual lap that's well designed, and the rest are just straight lines with maybe some bumps. These things work fine for their intended purpose, but shoving them down players' throats, really? Another big part of the main Mario Kart gameplay that's been changed in this game is how vehicles work, going pretty much back to basics with how they've worked in the last few games. Kart customization was added in Mario Kart 7. While I think it's a fun feature, especially for more competitive players, I found this feature kind of annoying, and it takes a lot longer to actually start the race because your friend wants to make the coolest kart ever, and when he's done, it's just like a cloud with big wheels. Insert the obligatory no friends joke somewhere around here. You can call me impatient all you want, and yes, I do have to fry my brain with dopamine 24/7 or I will go brain dead, but this feature is pretty annoying for how little it noticeably adds. Anyway, Mario Kart World goes back to basics, and I have a bunch of pre-made cars you can choose from, which, thank God, because this makes things so much easier. There are differences in control of each kart, having their own weight, speed, and steering statistics, but like I said earlier, I've never really noticed any crazy differences here, so for me, it's just whatever kart fits the best for me that day, and it's always the Hyperpipe bike. It's rude to ask questions, you know. An issue I do have with this kart system, however, and this has really been an issue since I want to say like Mario Kart 7, is that the bikes no longer feel any different in how they handle compared to the karts, so there's almost no point. When they were first introduced in Wii, the karts and the bikes were two completely separate things, so I find it pretty lame how it's almost no difference now, like what's the point? Now on to Sonic Racing Crossworlds. This game is again pretty similar to the last Sonic Racing game, that one being Team Sonic Racing, and that game kinda sucks. Not looking good for you already. The main new addition is, of course, the game's title's sake, being the addition of crossing worlds in the middle of a track, which actually, you know, I kinda like this a lot. Usually for the second lap of a race, a big ring portal will open up and it leads to a whole brand new track selected at random, which is completely separate in theme from the base track. And we got some cool themes here, like we got cyberspace from Sonic Frontiers, that stupid colorful place from Sonic Colors. Nah, I'm just kidding. We actually got some really cool tracks here, like one based off of Sonic and the Secret Rings, and I'll get more into it in tracks, but these are a really cool addition to the gameplay. This has to be one of the best ways to spruce up a track halfway through I've seen in a racing game, and hot take incoming, this mechanic is 100 times better than the routes in Mario Kart World. I mean, not only do these ring portals open up a cool choice for whoever's in first place, but also these things are designed like actual racetracks, and they're actually fun to play. Take notes, Mario Kart. Other than that, Sonic Racing Crossworlds kind of goes for the opposite route of Mario Kart World and tries to be a much more traditional racing game instead of trying to reinvent the genre, which this might not make any sense, but we kind of needed that as a palate cleanser. I mean, even for how big of a deal Mario Kart World was, it's nice to play a simple arcadey type racer. One thing that this game completely steals from Mario Kart, and I didn't and really don't plan on messing with it too much, is the kart customization added into this game. It's way more customizable than in any Mario Kart game ever seen before. Once again, Sonic stealing all the glory. This is the best way to tweak the game to play it how you want, and it also works way better than how it was ever implemented in Mario Kart. I'm not sure how competitive players know every minuscule difference in kart handling. There's bikes, there's karts, and they both play the same now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Speaking of having different vehicles, Sonic Racing Crossworlds gave people the biggest wish for a new Sonic racing game people have ever had. That being adding back the extreme gear seen in the Sonic Riders games. Not sure how many people are in the same boat as me here, but I've actually never played a Sonic Riders game before, except for Free Riders, but I gave up even trying to get that game to work. Seriously, how is this game so unresponsive? The Xbox Kinect isn't that bad. Anyway, now on top of having normal cars, you also have the extreme gear, and I'll tell you what, these hoverboards play way better than the actual cars. These are very fun. Oh yeah, they also added back Jet the Hawk and the rest of the Babylon Rogue, and I'll talk more about that in the characters, but it's actually really nice to see fan service given to characters like this who've almost been completely forgotten about. Each of these games uses controls pretty similar to the game before in the series. In fact, I would say these games control pretty much the same as the previous entry in each series, so I don't really have a whole lot to say here. Mario Kart definitely has much more smooth and bouncy handling, which works very well for how much off-roading is done in the open world here, but I also think that it can be a little finicky during the actual races, especially when everyone is just huddled together. And Sonic Racing Crossworlds has much more sensitive high-speed controls due to this being a much more high-speed game, and while I think this game controls just fine most of the time, there are a lot more times in this game where I find myself spinning out of control, and this game just simply lacks the polish seen in Mario Kart World. Some things will never change. If I'm being honest, I actually enjoy the speedier gameplay of Sonic Racing Crossworlds more. I would be lying if I said that Mario Kart World didn't feel way better to play. Like, I can just zen out while roaming around the open world here. With Sonic, it's just go, 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 and I do like that sometimes, but a break is nice and all. I noticed that I have a lot less to say about Sonic Racing Crossworlds than Mario Kart World, and I think that's just because I enjoy some of the mechanics here a lot more than in Mario Kart World. The game is just kind of another Sonic racing game. There's no huge selling point here, and looking at Mario Kart World with its vast open world and new movement mechanics, there's obviously just a lot more to say. So I must say, by default, Mario Kart World gets the point here. Again, I enjoy a lot of the aspects of Sonic way more, but there's still a lot more in Mario, and I gotta say, bumping around with 23 other people is pretty fun, and the new movement mechanics in open world is also cool too, I guess. Now on to the fun stuff. There's no such thing as a racing game without a variety of tracks. Well, except for Gran Turismo. The new tracks are always the thing I look forward to most when a game like this is announced. A game like this is the right time to put nostalgia in. It's also a great way to introduce brand new locations in the universe of each series. I always think of Coconut Mall from Mario Kart Wii. While most of the tracks in Mario Kart Wii are loosely based off of pre-existing locations in Mario games, and I would go as far as to say that it's one of the most iconic locations in the Mario series at this point. Put it in the next 3D Mario game. So how do the tracks hold up in these two new games? Well, Mario Kart World is to fit each track into its open world, which I had originally feared that it would make a lot of the tracks kind of merge together, and I'm happy to say that no, this really is not the case. Each track is very different to one another, and the routes to each track are what merges the tracks together, but I would even say with my main fear being negated, there are still definitely a few duds here, way more than in base Mario Kart 8. The tracks in this game are much more open than any seen before in the series, and that's obviously because the racers have been doubled, so the race now has to be less narrow. I mean, try to race with 24 players in a game like Mario Kart 8, that would be very annoying. But I also would say that the tracks here aren't nearly as open as they need to be. When I'm playing the routes, which I'm trying to not let bring down any of the actual tracks themselves, but it's kind of hard to when you're required to play them during the cups and in online races. But in the routes, you're all kind of bunched together in one long line, and while there are ways to get away from the other racers, I've noticed that when playing these, especially online things, they tend to get way too chaotic. But for the actual tracks themselves, some of these are the best designed tracks in the series as a whole, I'd say. But again, there are the duds. Tracks like Desert Hills, Mario Circus, and Salty Salty Speedway are some weird picks for full tracks here, as I'd say they kind of get bunched together the whole time, which can be kind of fun, but also not really. And when compared to the actual good tracks in this game, you also notice that, oh yeah, there's not really a ton of things to see here, talking about locations in the track and whatnot. Take, for example, possibly my favorite track in this game, Dino Dino Jungle, where you're in a Jurassic Park-style place with dinosaurs taking over the place, and you can hop on the backs and necks of dinosaurs. That's f***ing cool. And then compared to the f***ing Mario Circus circuit, this is just a Super Nintendo track. At least give us some pixel art or something. This is boring. Or better yet, just replace this with a better track. Ever thought about that? The themings in this game are actually some of the most creative and well thought out Mario Kart tracks. I will say that. Like Fairway Oasis, where you race in this big zoo, that has to be one of like the coolest things ever. Come on. Although when I first saw this track, it really did open up my mind to some pretty dark questions, because what separates some of these Mario characters apart from the actual zoo animals? Like, you can race as a basic ass cow in this game. It's literally called Cow. What makes the cow any different from the poor giraffe that's stuck in the zoo? Look guys, I'm not gonna blame anyone or anything, but Princess Peach really needs to introduce the 13th Amendment into the Mushroom Kingdom. Even the returning tracks in this game are pretty cool, besides Mario Circuit, but every family has their disowned oldest child. You get the return of Toad's Factory, one of the coolest levels in Wii. You get to learn how the item boxes are built. Slave labor. Guys, 13th Amendment! Then you got other tracks which are turned into something almost completely different from their original appearance, which is exactly the way I want to see a retro track done, like Wario Shipyard and Peach Beach, which is turned into some EDM concert beach thing. Yeah, don't get me anywhere close to this place, a bomb will go off. Although, some tracks were definitely lost in translation with the switch between games. Take Choco Mountain, which is supposed to be a mountain made out of chocolate. Now it's just mud. The whole chocolate theme was outright removed outside the name, which is fine and all, but this place is just a giant monster truck derby race, so I'm not sure why they didn't just call this place Wario Stadium instead. And then they could have went all out with the derby theming anyway, which That would have been cool. Or better yet, they could have doubled down on the chocolate theming and stuck this place by Sky High Sundae in the map, which is another track made out of candy. Speaking of that track, that was a weird-ass track to bring back. Sky High Sundae came to Mario Kart 8 through DLC in 2022, which already makes this the newest returning track in this game, but also this track was widely panned for, well, not being a very well-designed course, because it wasn't. But in this game, I would actually say that this is one of the strongest tracks in terms of design and theming. Really, this is one of the tracks I find myself coming to and choosing a lot online, because I just find it really fun with how many tricks you can pull off. Also, it just looks really cool. An issue I do have with the courses in this game is that I think they put in way too many retro tracks, and I would have widely preferred all new tracks. Really, if there was a time to put in all new tracks, this would be the game. And I think beyond that, the new courses in this game are really f***ing good. Take Acorn Heights or Boo Cinema. Boo Cinema is really cool. And even some of the stinkier tracks like Cheap Cheap Falls and Mario Bros. Circuit have some pretty cool theming. Mario Bros. Circuit really gives off that Radiator Springs vibes. I would say that while there are definitely tracks I enjoy more than others, because that's how things normally work, every track here is at least very well designed. It almost fits seamlessly into the open world we have here. Oh, and also, I never talked about it here, but Rainbow Road in this game is like the best track ever. Play that one. And some of the tracks here are definitely lacking in theme and variety, and I'm gonna say that I would take a better themed track compared to a well-designed track, because, you know, dopamine rush and all. But Sonic Racing Crossworlds, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite problem. I think all the tracks here are themed excellently, but I would say that a good amount of them lack an actual design polish. The Sonic series has so many iconic locations, and I would argue that the series has more iconic locations than in any other series in gaming. I mean, you got places like Green Hill, the Death Egg, Casino Night Zone, the whatever cities in City Escape in Beijing, huh? And even though in the 2010s it seemed like the only locations in the series were Green Hill Zone and Chemical Plant in the Sonic series, it's still able to produce some incredibly iconic little areas for Sonic to explore. But please stop trying to make Kronos Island a thing. Nobody wants to race around a realistic looking grass island. Are you kidding me? And with this, I'm happy to say that Crossworlds probably has the best courselets of any game in the Sonic Racing sub-series. We got plenty of iconic locations from the series, like Radical Highway, Water Palace, and a lot more, but do you know my favorite thing about the tracks in this game? We're actually finally getting to see some new things from the Sonic series. Kinda. Sure, 75% of these tracks do come from games like Sonic Heroes, Sonic Unleashed, and now more modern games like Sonic Frontiers, but at least we aren't getting the same locations we've seen for the last 10 years. This isn't a new talking point or anything, but for almost the last 15 years at this point, we've constantly seen the same couple of levels return with Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Seaside Hill, and it's only been up until recently where we've actually seen the more divisive parts of the franchise be celebrated. That being anything that comes after Sonic 3, really, Sega got weird for a little bit. And I would say that the newer Sonic games they pulled levels from to turn into racetracks work way better in terms of theming and variety compared to anything else seen in past Sonic racing games. I mean, there's a reason like 5 levels from Sonic Unleashed are in this game. If there's any game to take levels from that work best in a racing game, it's that game. So the fact that we saw barely any reused tracks and no tracks from any of the classic Sonic games is something here I actually enjoy quite a lot, and the original tracks in this game may be even better. You got some stuff like Coral Town, which is a racetrack based on a coral reef town, hence the name. A museum where dinosaurs are running around a little on the nose here. Oh, and a whole mall. They aren't even trying to hide the influence, and that's okay with me. But this game obviously relies a lot more on returning tracks than Mario Kart, with Mario Kart at this point being almost its own series away from the regular Mario stuff. But I just love seeing these areas from Sonic games get these modern recreations, and for them to look like this. Like, look at Metal Harbor in this game. You guys are edging us with that Adventure 2 remake. And might I add, while this game might not have the same grounded art style seen in Mario Kart World where everything can cohesively exist in the same world, I do think that this is one of the best looking Sonic games ever. It's really nice to see that Sega is finally utilizing the next generation hardware of graphics. Although, it took you guys long enough. The PlayStation 5 is in its twilight years, whatever that means. Also, I just think it's really cool that they brought the North Star Islands from Sonic Superstars into the modern continuity, and this track is actually one of the best looking tracks in the game in terms of style. This is the exact type of thing I want to see in a Sonic racing game. Would have been cool if they added Fang, though. And then for the tracks that might not have worked well for the full 3 or 2 lap races, I guess, because you're in another world during the second lap, they turned those tracks into little mini tracks so you can visit through the ring portals, you know, like the whole Crossworlds part of the game. These are pretty much just standard tracks, but in a 1-lap format, although I guess you can play them outside of the cups as normal tracks, but those are obviously not super fleshed out in the way that some of the other tracks are, but, you know, you get my point. And in this, you got things like Alaska, which as an Alaskan resident, I get it. You also get some cool newer stuff like Cyberspace from Frontiers. Not really a great looker, but that's okay. And of course, Dinosaur Jungle, again, not hiding the influence, and again, I respect that. And also, Dragon Road's pretty cool. Yeah. At the time I'm writing this, there's a whole 2 seasons of DLC that'll be released in the following year, with tracks based off of Minecraft, SpongeBob, Pac-Man, Mega Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Avatar: The Last Airbender, which all seem to be really cool from what I've seen, even though the DLC is way too much considering the game's base price is $70 freaking dollars, which quite frankly is worth it. I love SpongeBob. But here's where the biggest issue with both of these games comes up: the price. You are paying a premium price for these games, $70 and $80 not counting DLC, and the whole console you need to buy for Mario Kart. And I know I'm one to talk about the price of games, considering that I have been a Nintendo and Sonic shill since before I can even remember, but the fact that they're charging so much money for games like this with a lack of content is crazy. And that's not to say that these games aren't at least quality, but when these games have barely any more content than the last game in the series, or less in Mario Kart's case, it gets to the point where, well, what's even the point? And not getting into politics, but yes, the economy is in the toilet everywhere, I get it, and it must be tough when you're a $300 billion company dipping down to $299 billion territory, but also, I don't care. Like, I'm pretty sure that the Radical Highway racetrack just reuses assets from Shadow Generations. This is a $70 game that is straight bullshit. I'm going to talk about this more in the value section, but yeah, this better not become a long-lasting trend, because even I, the master of shills, will have to take a step back, and that's how you know things are getting serious. Now, for which game actually gets the point, it's kind of hard for me to actually make up my mind. I'm not really going to let the Crossworlds DLC change my mind on anything here, but at the time of editing this, right now, the Minecraft DLC did just come out, and that was pretty fun, but here's the thing. Mario Kart World and Sonic Racing Crossworlds are both pretty equal in tracks, but I would say that the variety of locations that Sonic gives you is a lot cooler and more consistently quality than Mario Kart's list. Now, I would say that Mario Kart's highs are definitely higher than Sonic Racing's, but I also would say that Mario Kart's lows are worse than Sonic Racing's. Now, I do really enjoy how coherent all the Mario Kart tracks are, all fitting together in a huge world, but I also really enjoy the variety that Sonic Racing Crossworlds gives you. Some tracks look like they're ripped straight out of real life, and others look like they're ripped out of a very stylized game, which is just cooler in my opinion than everything making sense in an open world. Because, hot take, I know, but I don't pop into a racing game to be engrossed in a rich open world. I play them to have a quick fun time. Weird, I know. I'm just saying that I think the open world concept should have been saved for the next 3D Mario game or something like that. But after a long time of considering and opening up my mind to a whole world of possibilities of the death threats I very well may receive, I decided that I gotta give it to Sonic. I just think the tracks here are all around more fun, having only 12 racers compared to Mario's 24, but also you have a lot more time to breathe instead of just making it constant chaos. And I know I never brought this up, but having 6 red rings to find around the stage really does bring a whole level of strategy into the racing here, and you're rewarded for them pretty well too. Now, again, I will say that Mario's best tracks are still better designed than Sonic's best here, but I still think that there's more consistent fun to be had just by simply racing around in Crossworlds. Also, Sonic Racing Crossworlds is Chow Park, so I kinda need to give Sonic the point here anyway. One of the things I always look forward to most in games like this is the most useless part of the game, the character roster. In modern racers, characters are often split into different classes, which changes how they control in their kart, which are also split into different classes, meaning you can mix and match to fit however you want to play. Or you can just do the correct thing and pick the coolest character, which in this case is Shadow the Hedgehog with the Hatsune Miku hoverboard. And both of these games take the exact opposite approach to their character rosters to any game in the series at this point, unless you want to count like Mario Kart Tour or something like that, but who the hell cares? Crossworlds, as the name says, takes characters from their own series and whatnot and adds them into this game as characters, and even some getting their own racetracks, which is always cool to see. And in Mario Kart World's case, it takes a step back from all the Nintendo characters and racetracks seen in Mario Kart 8 and goes back to basics, and this time only includes characters and tracks from the Mario series. But to spruce up the roster a little bit, they did include randoms from the Mario world, like the Goomba, and who could forget the cow. Jesus Christ, the fucking cow. It will never be that funny. But let's talk about Sonic Racing Crossworlds first, because it's more interesting and I'd rather talk about it first this time. In my opinion, holds more power than yours because I'm making the video. And I'm better than you. Must I reiterate the whole concept of this game? It's taking a whole bunch of characters from other game series and other offsprings of the Sonic series and merging them all into this one little game. And this is the perfect game to do something like that. But this isn't a new concept for the Sonic Racing series. Take the first entry in the modern Sonic Racing series we see today, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. I love this game. I had it on the Wii when I was little, so that's how you know I was a little loser. Around this time, most definitely to boost up their good old stock price, instead of just simply titling something as a Sega product, they had to slap Sonic's name onto it first due to the belief that an average consumer wouldn't know really what a Sega is or care. We first saw this with Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, which is pretty much just an average Genesis collection with Sonic's name slapped onto it, as well as Sega Superstars Tennis. Sonic's name isn't really in the title, but I wonder who they wanted to see on the cover here. And then you have the best thing that come out of this little micro series, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, which is primarily a Sonic racing game, but of course it has tracks from other iconic Sega series, like Nights into Dreams, Monkey Ball, Samba de Amigo. Sadly, this was eventually lost with future entries, which never really bothered me all that much. I'm a dumb kid, I came here for Sonic, but without this game, I probably never would have gotten into series like Super Monkey Ball, because Sega isn't really doing that series any damn favors. And Sonic Racing Crossworlds, while not having the same title, definitely is trying to recapture the same audience with the addition of other popular Sega franchises like Hatsune Miku, Joker from Persona Not Batman, and Kazuya from the Yakuza series. Sadly, none of the more classic Sega characters will be in this game, at least not yet, but it does seem like Nights into Dreams will be coming through DLC at some point, which I'm very excited to see, but I mostly just want a Monkey Ball track. Outside of these, you of course got the mainstay Sonic characters with a few additions, most notably adding the rest of the Chaotix after Team Sonic Racing only had Vector for some reason. They even reference how weird of a decision this was in one of Knuckles' rival cutscenes, which is a really funny meta reference. And then of course the Babylon Rogue was added after being dormant since their appearances in the Sonic Riders series. They also added Zaz from Sonic Lost World because we, yes we, were collectively asking for the return of 2 out of the 6 Deadly Six members. At least Zavok has a friend now because God knows I did not want to be it. And then also Egg Robo's here for some reason. I kind of like him actually because he's kind of a rando added here and he gives off that why not energy that the cow from Mario Kart World has, but we aren't there yet, so let me enjoy my f***ing peace for now. And then lastly, for the Sonic characters, you got Sage from Sonic Frontiers, who's a cool addition, I guess. I wasn't a huge fan of her characterization in Frontiers, which is why I don't really care all that much that they're trying to make her a thing in the series, but she's better than any of the Deadly Six members, if that's saying anything. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, you can also unlock Super Sonic here, which is whatever. And the Werehog from Unleashed was a pre-order bonus, but I never pre-ordered the game because I bought it physically at Best Buy, so hopefully this will be downloadable soon. Oh, and I also forgot, again, but a few alternate costumes based off Sonic Prime are here if you buy the Season Pass before any of the tracks actually release. I like Pirate Knuckles a lot. One thing I'm pretty disappointed about here is that they didn't go any further into the Sonic series besides the main modern cast, with a few odd ones out thrown in. Oh, and also the Sonic Prime skins, but I hated that show, so I don't really care. Except for Pirate Knuckles, I like him. I would have loved if they threw in some movie skins. I really liked how Shadow looked in the movie DLC for Generations, and hell, throw in Tom or something from the movies. Tom's cool. No, never mind, they should have thrown in Wade Whipple. And they didn't even choose any safe picks like Classic Sonic or Fang, which is weird considering they were just recently in Sonic Superstars and they have a track based on that game here, so hell, throw in characters like Bark the Polar Bear, Bean the Duck, Sally Acorn, Metal Knuckles. If there was a time to put so many deep cuts from the Sonic series into a game, this would be the game. I just think it was a huge missed opportunity to not include any of the more niche characters from all around the Sonic series. You guys could have made this game a Sonic fans' wet dream, although I really don't want to see that actually considering some of this community's history. And now for the characters that people were actually excited for, the Crossworlds racers that aren't from other Sega franchises. Not counting the ungodly amount of leaks, the first character and track to actually be announced for this was the Minecraft stuff where you get Minecraft Steve, Alex, and a Creeper as playable characters. I just like how dumb these guys are, having such flat animations compared to everyone else. It's funny to imagine they could have used the movie design here and had Jack Black yell into the mic, and then he got paid like $90 million. Maybe the timeline we're living in isn't so bad after all. And at the time of editing this, the DLC just came out, and it's pretty cool. That's about all I have to say. I'll probably make a video about all the DLC once it's all wrapped up. Then one of the weirder picks here, SpongeBob and a track where you get to race around Bikini Bottom, which is by far the DLC I'm most excited for here. What can I say? I like SpongeBob. And then here you get SpongeBob and Patrick as playable characters. I hope they get voice lines because otherwise that'd be kind of a wasted opportunity. Lastly, for the first wave of DLC, we're getting a track based off of Pac-Man where you get Pac-Man plus all 4 of the ghosts as playable characters, Pinky, Kinky, Dildo, and Buttplug, or whatever you call them. And then for the second wave of DLC, we're getting some stuff based off of Mega Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Avatar: The Last Airbender, which are all series I don't personally care all that much for. But if you're excited, then more power to you, you know. We don't actually know a whole lot about this wave, so I'm not going to go too much into it. Just hopefully Monkey Ball's there somewhere and then no complaints from me. Overall, I do really like the roster of characters we got here. Not all are from characters I care all that much about, but I also don't really mind. I'm always willing to open up my mind to some new garbage, but not really. Sega is heavily relying on Nickelodeon franchises here, which makes me wonder if there's any sort of Sonic show in development at Nickelodeon, and honestly, I'm all for that as long as it's any better than Sonic Prime, because man, I really did not like that show. Now on to Mario Kart, which as I stated before, goes for a much more simple approach compared to Crossworlds. It goes completely for the Mario Kart aesthetic and picks random background characters seen throughout the Mario series and pretty much just gives any sign of life a playable spot. You got things like the Goomba, but they kept going. You can play as a dolphin, a mole, and don't forget the f***ing cow. In previous Mario Kart games, we had seen crossover characters first coming in the Mario Kart Arcade GX games. Since they were developed by Namco, they included some Namco characters like Pac-Man, the Tamagotchi creature guy. And this was expanded upon in Mario Kart 8 with the addition of Zelda and Animal Crossing characters through DLC, and later adding the Inklings from Splatoon with the Switch re-release of the game, and of course having racetracks based on those series, except Splatoon, it got sloppy seconds. Now it's easy to forget that all of this was originally DLC added upon base Mario Kart 8 because of how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and its DLC completely overshadowed this game's original release, but when this game first came out, it was just Mario characters, and this created fear among Mario Kart enthusiasts that the Mario Kart series was slowly becoming like a Super Smash Bros. Type racing game, and it would lose the Mario identity. So to combat this, Nintendo made the next Mario Kart game have absolutely no references to anything outside of the Mario world. I actually kind of like this. It was a good way to ground the game and allow it to be its own thing with its own original map and course ideas, and I'm completely fine with that. But I do think that the extra characters in Mario Kart 8, including the Miis, really brought an element of life into the game that was lost in Mario Kart World. So to add extra variety into the roster of this game, they finally gave people one of their biggest wishes for a new Mario Kart game: costumes. Now, not to glaze too hard right off the bat here, but when I was expecting costumes to be added to Mario Kart, I assumed they would look like how they look in Super Smash Bros., and for the most part be pretty simple recolors. And I'm happy to say that the costumes in this game really amazed me with their creativity some of the time. Now, I'm not actually going to go into much detail about these because I don't really know what to say. They're cool. But I will say that I think it's pretty lame that some of the characters here were given a lot more love than others in terms of skins. All the actual characters got skins here, but a few characters who very well should have gotten more skins got none. Like Donkey Kong has only one skin where he's wearing a hockey protection thing or whatever. And then of course any character that isn't an actual character just got no skins whatsoever. None of the enemies, not even the Pianta. Like, give this guy a cool hat or something, come on. I just think this is super lame because I don't want to sound like a broken clock here, but also I will. This game is $80. I'm sorry, but they should not be making such simple budget cuts like that, because not only are you buying a whole brand new console for this game, but you're also spending $50 to $80 on the game itself. That's dumb and crazy, and I don't respect it. There are a few other issues here I have with the character roster in this game. For one, I think it's super lame that none of the other Donkey Kong characters got to be in this game outside of Donkey Kong himself. I mean, Diddy and Funky Kong were added into DLC in Mario Kart 8 like 2 years ago, and I like those guys, so add them, please. And then Magikoopa as a character was stripped down, turned into a useless item. You guys did this guy dirty. I just think it really sucks that for a brand new game in a series, which is supposed to bring Mario Kart into Nintendo's next era with the Switch 2, had such fan favorite characters removed and replaced for what? A cow? Look, again, I like this guy and all, but people are just really, really, really annoying about the damn cow. So yes, I am going to give Sonic the point here. I did consider giving it to Mario Kart due to the many creative skins that are in this game, but it's really telling how half the characters here did not receive skins. So honestly, that takes up a lot of the goodwill I had for those cool costumes. Mario Kart World does beat Tanuki Mario and Pink Gold Peach from 8 though, I gotta give him that. And I just think that the Crossworlds characters seen in Sonic Racing Crossworlds really do bring a level of life to the roster you just won't get in Mario Kart World. Now, the goal with Mario Kart's roster was vastly different, again, creating its own world, but that doesn't stop me from loving SpongeBob more than the f***ing cow. Yes, I'm still on that. Say you were to get bored of just doing mindless races over and over and over again. I know, that would be crazy. Anyway, in any good racing game, there is of course multiple game modes outside of the main gameplay to spice up how you play. That would be a good segue into an Adam and Eve sponsorship if we weren't 30 minutes in and I actually got an Adam and Eve sponsorship. Whether it be a battle mode or a custom rules race or just anything like that, every racing game has them, except Gran Turismo. Sorry, this will be my last time throwing shots at the series. No promises. Personally, I'm more invested in the main racing gameplay in these types of games rather than the other junk they decide to add. Like, I've never been a big fan of Mario Kart's battle mode or the arena mode in Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Although Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's Cops and Robbers game mode is pretty fun, so why didn't they bring that back for World? This battle mode sucks. In Mario Kart World, most of this game's extra content have to do with this game's big open world, which I already lightly discussed in the gameplay segment. And again, for how big the open world is, I feel like it lacks a lot of depth. When you roam around the open world, there are hundreds of missions you can complete, which can range from things like a trial race to collecting blue coins, doing a certain amount of tricks, or really just doing anything the game wants you to do. I'm a big fan of these time trial races where the open world terraforms to be a track from the original Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo. I tried to make a video about that game game a long while ago, but anytime I actually try and play that game for longer than 10 minutes, I get sick. That's not even a joke. That's why I never finished the video, but maybe it'll happen someday. Again, no promises. Throughout the open world, there are also peach coins thrown around all over the place you can collect, as well as certain location stamps around each racetrack, which were pretty fun to find, and actually some of them were pretty well hidden. But at the same time, while the whole open world is fun enough to explore, and it does look great for how new the Switch 2 is, I also can't help but say most of the stuff around the open world felt more like an afterthought than actually trying to make the game fun. Stuff like the peach coins and a lot of the missions felt like padding for the most part, so all this made the game's main selling point kind of boring, actually. Again, $80 game. Where I think the open world actually really works in this game is the new game mode added into this game, being the Knockout Tour mode. In this game mode, it actually utilizes all the map's routes, which are crammed down your butt during the normal races, but this time they actually work well because you're constantly driving in this game mode, and you're supposed to drive all the way to the tracks. This time, Nintendo took some notes from Fortnite, and as you guys may know, I love Fortnite, and I unironically have spent way more money than I'm even willing to admit on that godforsaken game. And Knockout Tour is just Mario Kart's Fortnite, I guess. In Knockout Tour, it has 6 laps, and for each lap, 4 players are eliminated, and by the last lap, it's just you and 3 other players, so you hopefully end up getting in first place, but you know, likely not. This has been my go-to mode for this game. I love being able to do non-stop races for like 10 minutes and having so much breathing room in the routes, and it helps you stay locked in, as the kids say nowadays. I'm not even kidding. I would say if you want to get your money out of this game, you need to play through all the Knockout Cups. These gotta be some of the most fun things in the Mario Kart series, definitely in this game. But sadly, the other big game mode in Mario Kart World, being Battle Mode, was clearly a last-minute decision for this game, because I think this is by far the most boring battle mode in all of Mario Kart, and I'm not even a huge battle mode fan. In Mario Kart World, you only have 2 options for games you can play in the battle mode: Balloon Battle and Coin Runners, which are fun and all, but they only last for so long, and man, do I miss Cops and Robbers. I guess if there's anything nice I have to say about the battle mode in this game, is that the mode is really benefited by the open world of Mario Kart World. They no longer have to develop and design a whole extra group of battle mode tracks like they've had to do in previous games. Instead, they can just use the open world here, and honestly, it works just as well as the actual battle mode maps in other games. I still would have rather had brand new areas to explore, like sections of the map dedicated to be just a part of the battle mode and be designed like, I don't know, battle arenas, because I really miss the areas like the GameCube map from Double Dash or Urchin Underpass from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and if Mario Kart keeps going for this open world style of gameplay in future games, we most likely won't see creative and fun maps like this again. And I mean, whatever, it's not like there's a whole lot to do here, and yes, I do want to play Coin Runners for 20 hours straight, and I'm being half serious when I say that. And that's kind of it for the extra game modes in Mario Kart World. It doesn't have a lot, which is pretty dumb for a $80 game, but I would say that every extra game mode added into this game really does bring something good to the game, and even for how lacking battle mode is, there still is some good fun to be had there. Seriously though, bring back Cops and Robbers, I will pay like $20 in DLC for that. But even for how little extra game modes there is in Mario Kart World, that is still a gift from God compared to Sonic Racing Crossworlds, because that game has absolutely no extra game modes. That's right, besides the main Grand Prix and track selection modes, there's absolutely nothing else to do in this game. I got excited when I first saw the mission mode in this game because of games like Sonic Origins having some pretty creative missions. Seriously, check out those are pretty underrated. But no, this mode is basically just achievements, so you don't actually do anything here besides look at certain challenges you can do in the Grand Prix, so basically, it's pretty lame. I guess you have the settings menu. Yeah, this is why the game's priced just $70. Yeah, say what you want about Mario Kart World, but at least there are, you know, some things to do outside of the main races. In Sonic Racing Crossworlds, if you want to do anything else, you're shit out of luck. Mario Kart World gets the point here. No duh. This to me is the most interesting topic here, even for how little I have to say about it, because in today's climate, the biggest reason why you may or may not get a game is because of the price. I mean, it's always been that way, but seriously, now we got $80 games. That is going to be a big problem for a lot of people. I mean, it is just as simple as not buying the game, but I have some serious impulse control, okay? But before we even start here, let me give you a preamble. I am incredibly lucky to be in a position where not only do I have the money to buy both of these games and still live comfortably, Seriously, you would be surprised how many people place games like this above their mortgage. So please understand that I'm not exactly in the position to say whether any of these games are worth it, but it's also important to note that while these games are priced highly, that doesn't exactly mean that these games are worth that much, but rather the price that people would be willing to pay for these games at the highest. And lo and behold, they're pretty damn expensive. But it also is important to note that while I am ranking these games for which game gives you the most value, neither of these games are really meant to give you value. It's for people who want to have fun and have the money to waste. Spend? Yes? Look, if you really want value in a game, just look at what's on sale on Steam or, you as the consumer decide if something's worth it for you, and it doesn't matter what some knob like me tells you, so listen to me anyway, though. But with both of these games being sold at such a premium price, it is a question in many consumers' minds on which game they would prefer to buy, if any, and here's my answer to that. Just buy Mario Kart, dude. However, I will say that if you are not interested in a lot of the Switch 2's category, then Sonic Racing Crossworlds might be the better option because you can get that game on PlayStation and Xbox and the box. Now, despite Mario Kart being the more expensive game than Sonic Racing Crossworlds, this game does have around the same amount of tracks as well as more characters, game modes, and pizzazz. And of course, Sonic Racing Crossworlds has all those extra characters and tracks from around the multiverse, but all the cool stuff here is locked behind a $30 paywall on top of the game's base $70 price, so I would say that in terms of content, Mario Kart just gives you more for your money. And while I may prefer some of the gameplay and a lot of the tracks in Sonic Racing Crossworlds more than Mario Kart World, in terms of value, it's not about value, but you get my point. So yeah, Mario Kart World wins here. What does it win? Being fed to the dog, man, I don't know. I do want to say, though, that despite me comparing both of these games and waging war between them, because, I'm fighting the real fight here, billion-dollar company versus billion-dollar company, it's not the 90s anymore. Mario and Sonic are not outright competitors anymore, and while these games are, of course, technically competing with each other, they are still, at the end of the day, made for separate audiences, despite there being a lot of overlap. Me. And it's pretty funny that we now live in an age where Sega is just throwing shots at Nintendo just like they used to. Like, look, they even referenced that one old commercial. I know that one. So which game should you buy, you grimy, little disgusting, stupid, greasy, idiotic, no-brained consumer? Not Gran Turismo, that's for fucking sure.